exciting news, and I just had to come up and do a quick video in addition to my moon series that we've just completed. The Vice President Mike Pence has come out and said that America will land astronauts on the moon within 5 years. This is massive and exciting, and NASA has been building towards returns to the moon for a few years now, particularly after the large deposits of water have been found, mostly in the polar regions, which is all of a sudden made actually going back to the moon worthwhile, but also because of the long-term ambition of them returning to Mars. The moon is an excellent stepping stone for that mission, for a couple of reasons, which I'll talk about in a minute. First of all, I just want to talk about why I think this date of 5 years has come around. The cynic in me will point to the fact that President Trump, if he gets in for a second term, that would put the moon landings within his presidency. I wonder if he is thinking legacy. We all remember JFK's famous speech, we do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard. I think a lot of people actually don't even know who the president was during the moon landings. It was Nixon. But everybody remembers that speech. Which actually makes me a little surprised that Vice President Pence did the announcement. Actually, I would have thought the president would be all over that, but maybe they're not 100% certain they can do it. I don't know. But we all know Trump has done other speeches about space, and when he signed that executive order a couple of years ago, and Buzz Aldrin stood there and cracked his little joke about the space being infinite, and Buzz Aldrin said, going infinite and beyond, sir. And Trump just goes, well, maybe maybe it is infinite, maybe there are edges to it. We just don't know, do we? But it's big. And he, oh God, talk about somebody trying to sound clever, but looking like a moron. But anyway, so hopefully the reasons why they can do this, or planning to do this within 5 years, is that NASA has actually come and said, we can do this within 5 years. Or this is possible, but we need to kick up the arse. The other side of me, unfortunately, that thinks this is more about triggering a space race. China recently landed on the dark side of the moon. Japan has sent a rover, other things like that, but I think probably mostly China's ambitions in lunar exploration is what's kick-started this. And, you know, I think that really shone through in Pence's speech when he says about, we were the first to land on the moon in the 20th century, we're going to be the first to put boots on there in the 21st century. That's made it sound political. Because let's be honest, the ISS was a multinational venture, very successful in some ways, not so successful in others, but mostly very successful mission, and it was done with the cooperation of other countries. And the European Space Agency, for example, was very much involved. Russia was very much involved. This type of mission, going back to the moon, isn't just about going to the moon. It's about space exploration, it's about the future. It's actually a big chunk about the future of mankind, which I'll talk about in a second. But it would be nice if this was actually a multinational project. Multinational projects are a bit difficult, and you've got lots and lots of people, you know, too many cooks spoil the broth and all that, but that would be nice, and I hope the project could eventually become multinational. The Gateway project, which is really about building a space station around the moon, which is, again, a NASA project, is already becoming a little bit multinational. Canada are involved, and I hope other nations will become involved with that. It's just a shame, really, that the moon isn't, and the moon is becoming, or seems to be becoming, a political statement. That's a shame. So Jim Bridenstine, who is the NASA Chief Administrator and appointed by Trump, was very excited about all this, and he talked a lot about the NASA missions. He seemed to skip over the fact that Pence did say that we expect you to do this by any means necessary, and he seemed very pointed on that. by any means necessary, he really is talking about using private firms and potentially SpaceX. SpaceX seem to be in the lead at the moment for the construction of a really heavy lift rocket. The Falcon rocket has already been tested. It has launched. It can carry about 64 tons. Elon Musk back in 2011 said with one rocket we could get to the moon. With 2 rockets we could land on the moon. So I think they're already looking at expanding that 64-ton lift capacity. NASA's rocket, the SLS, they're talking about tests with the Orion module system, which they're designing by 2023. That has a potential lift capacity of 70 tons, but they are looking at increasing that to 130 tons, which is the sort of lift capacity we would need if we're going to go a more expansive mission than just going to the moon and coming back and actually doing something once we were there. And we're going to need a much bigger lift capacity. But the SLS has gone over budget. It hasn't been. It was supposed to be tested this year. It doesn't look like it's going to be, and it's been marred with problems. They're already saying that the first Orion proper test is going to have to probably be launched by the Falcon. So that really is. I am hoping NASA is listening and actually going to take on board other external private companies and really potentially use their technology. And I hope Elon Musk generally is the centre of that. But I just mentioned the Gateway a few minutes ago, and this is the thing that really excites me, is the Gateway project. Because going to the moon and walking around and bringing some moon rocks back, that's fine. But we've been there, done that, and there really is no reason to do that. Going to Mars and using the moon as a stepping stone, that's what I heard a lot about today. A NASA scientist was talking on BBC radio, and she said, really, no, we want to go to Mars. Now, if we want to go to Mars, we need to build a habitable base on the moon. We need to practice. We need to make sure that we can do this before we go to Mars, because Mars is much, much further away. Mars is months away, whereas the moon is 3 days away. I agree with that totally, but let's be honest and let's be real about this. If we're going to the moon, there has to be a financial reason. There has to be a purpose beyond scientific, because this is expensive. And there are reasons, but it's not really about going to Mars. Mars is great and it's important, but really we want to go to the Kuiper Belt. We want to go to the asteroid belt. We want to mine these places. We want to mine the moon. We want to potentially mine Mars, and we want to mine the asteroid belt. There are materials there, like in my moon episode, I've talked about how there's 10 times the amount of titanium on the lunar surface as there is on the Earth. These are materials we need. I'm about to do a series on what humanity is going to be like over the next 100 years, and one of those things is where we would live. If we change the way we live, we could avoid devastation, but we need to change dramatically the way we live on this earth. One of the ways we can do that is with resources. We need vast resources. We need steel. We need these other materials. We are going to need more exotic materials for batteries that are limited on Earth. We are going to need to go and find this stuff elsewhere. And that will be the reason why we go out into space. It will be to go out, get resources to bring back to the Earth. We are not going to colonise Mars, and millions of us are not going to be living on Mars. If we do, it's going to be under domes. These things about terraforming Mars, if we did terraform Mars, it would be a short-term solution, because Mars doesn't have a very strong magnetic field. So any atmosphere we could create on Mars would be blown away, like it was 3.8 billion years ago. The same thing will happen. We're not going to be living, billions of us, on Mars, unless we live under domes. Domes would require significant resources, and cheap resources. We need vast quantities. The more we have, the cheaper it gets. It's as simple as that. So if we can set up colonies and or it'll probably be robotic mining colonies in the Kuiper Belt, then yeah, that's what we need. So even though NASA scientists talk a lot about the scientific purpose for going to the moon, and let's be honest, it's going to be financial. The Gateway project really is the opening to that. That's the important thing about the Gateway. Gateway is going to be a small, it looks a bit like the ISS, and it is kind of like that. It's going to be a module that will be in a reasonably low moon orbit. They want it to be able to be mobile, so they don't want to just put it in an orbit like a satellite, like the ISS. They actually want to be able to move it, which is what they're talking about: electric engines, big solar panels, this sort of thing. And that is important as well, because as things adapt, you need a station that can adapt. They're talking about bringing in robotic refueling and resupply modules, which is already been, SpaceX has already been working on that area, and the Boeing project as well, which is working on a similar idea. And we could have constant missions backwards and forwards, particularly if SpaceX and other things can really develop a reusable rocket in the future. And that's the exciting thing. Once we actually take this step, we get on the moon, we set up so that we return, and there's a reason to go to the moon, then the technology can really start pushing. We, as a species, are brilliant at doing things when we have to, and when we can make some money on it. We're not so great at doing things just for the scientific principle. But we are clever as hell when we have to do something, or when there's some money involved. And in this case, there's going to be a crap load of money involved. And it is the future of mankind. So we may get to a point due to climate change that is something we have to do. In which case, I think we're pretty resourceful. And then we will see reusable rockets. Hopefully we'll move away from rockets. Combustion really is a retarded way to go into space. I'm hoping we can find something a bit more significant, a bit more sci-fi. I want to see a space elevator. I want to see electric engines. I want to see other ways of... I want to see us getting to the moon within hours, not days, you know? And hopefully that's the future. So, Mike Pence. Excellent. Good news. I'm excited. I'm pumped. We're going on the moon. And it looks like we're going to stay. So thanks very much. Like and subscribe to my channel. Go back and have a look at the moon episodes I've already done. We do talk a lot about the titanium and uranium and all this sort of thing, and hollow moon, and our opinion on all those mysteries and conspiracies that go with the moon, and it actually gives us a few reasons on why we want to return. We do talk about the mining and stuff. And yeah, thanks very much. See you again. So, thank you NASA. I hope you don't fuck it up.